Hello and welcome to the Throw-In Hurling Show with me, Michael Verney, as we look back on an exhilarating All-Ireland Senior Hurling final in the company of Eddie Brennan and John Mullane, when Lee McCarthy is heading back to Clare after a 329 to 134 victory in a game that had everything, including extra time. Ned, have you caught your breath? Like, what a game. Like, it had everything from the first second until the last second.
Yeah, Jesus, an incredible game. And I suppose, like anything All-Ireland finals, it's heaven and hell. And you just feel sorry for Cork today, because, Jesus, it's an awful way to lose one. But, for Clare, Jesus, the high this morning is just incredible. But, look, lads, I think if you were to look, if you would have said even at the start, like, there was a good chance, like, a draw was on the cards. Like, it wasn't it wasn't going to be out of place for a draw to happen. So it just meant then where it went after that and what the story that was going to unravel. But like, I just see someone put up on a Twitter link there that at the end of the match, right, during the match, like Peter Duggan went off, Rogers went off, Dermot Ryan went off, Conor Cleary went off. Like, you're just kind of going, wow, like that's stacked, goes off to the line. And I just mentioned in the article even this morning, I just felt, can you imagine, like, it was probably unlikely that someone like Robin Mounsey or Cian Galvin was going to get in there yesterday. And then you look at Meehan and like the three of them going down the straight, the difference that they made to Clare, like Meehan as well, like, geez, Meehan made a difference when he came on, when that match was in the melting pot.
And just on that, Ned, as well, Cian Galvin was able to go in and tie down Kingston, who was beating a tyrant Dermot Ryan, who'd been brilliant to that point. Like, their squad was really tested and really shone through.
Yeah, and we spoke about that during the year, and I know they had their disappointments year after year, but we spoke about this, and I think, I don't know, do we say it even at the start of the championship that we were talking about, that Clare have a strong squad. And like you say, when you're a sub and you hear that talk, or you're down the order and you're playing nights and you're playing internal matches, you probably have a fair grasp of where you sit in the order. But for them boys then to come along, and that's where, as a manager, when you say that to players, that's where it counts, and they have to be tuned in. And just an epic game of hurling, lads. I think, Jesus, it was just edge of your seat. I'm obviously not in Ireland at the moment, and just watching it here, like, it's mad. You're away from home, but it's the most important time of the year. You just have to watch the All-Ireland final. And we, gathered around the telly, the whole lot of us here, and it was just, you were just on the edge of your seat watching it. We're like going, oh God, will there be extra time? Because I thought Clare done enough to see that match out. They just didn't convert. And fatigue is one thing. We all talk about coaching even. I thought towards the end of the extra time then, I seen David Fitzgerald, lumping a couple of skulls off up the field. Just lumped it. Whereas if you go back to probably arguably the best team to close out a match is probably Limerick, in that they wouldn't have just sculled the ball aimlessly up the field. They would have been playing it into the corners, and someone would have stayed there. Just maybe make the opposition come from deep. And even on that, Shanahan's couple of fouls, like, one of them, okay, they got the equaliser off it. But the other one, if there's a place to foul them, it's high off up the field, not to be in the scoring zone. But to both sets of players, you just say absolutely incredible entertainment for everybody.
Mull, where does this rank among the great games? Like, two teams delivering this champagne hurling on the biggest day. And I'm not being smart. Like, we've had some great days this year and great games, but we needed this final as well, and the two teams served it up. Where do you think it ranks, Mull?
Finals wise, I would rank it the best I've ever seen. Now, for me to say that over the 2014 final, 2013 final, Jesus, lads, it had everything. I mean, atmosphere wise, tension, the drama, the scores, the colour,
the missed opportunities.
It was just insane, absolutely insane. And yeah, for me, I think it's the best final I've seen, and just to be up there and to witness it, and it was just an incredible game. And to think that, over 40, what there was nearly 45, 46 amateur players went out and put on a show like that is just incredible. And I'd echo what Eddie said about the Clare bench. It's one thing, having a bench. But you know yourself, Eddie, and yourself, Ernie, it's to have that trust then, to throw him in on the biggest day of the year. And I'll even go through the Clare bench, right? The only two outfield players that didn't get on the field were Rory Hayes and Paul Flanagan, who have been probably tried and tested, been there before. And for Lohan to go and to throw in King Galvin, Darragh Lohan, lads.
Brilliant.
He never mentioned Darragh Lohan. Yeah. He went in on Brian Hayes, and I'm saying to myself, I was with Marie Crowe and Des, and to be forward, we had some crack on the radio and the tension in the radio, and because the two of them are kind of Marie's from Clare and Des of Clare connections, and Jesus, it was great crack. But I even said to them, I said, like, Darragh Lohan, throwing him in on Brian Hayes when Cleary went off and the height advantage, and he went in like Lohan back in the day with the red helmet, cleared up. You're 100% right, Fernie. The big one was Keane Galvin. Dermot Ryan had an incredible game, but Kingston was coming in, hitting for 2 scores, and it was to make that bold call and to say, right, we've got to get him out there and get Keane.
He made them all day though, Mull, didn't he? He got like we've criticised him before or questioned him a small bit. Geez, boys, they got it on the money and there was no waiting. And I think the fact that maybe he's been questioned before, why was Keane Nolan left on Galan so long in last year's Munster final or whatever, they were like, bang, when we see it, we're making it, and they made all the right moves and made them at the right times.
And even Shane Morley made a massive impact. He brought in legs, he brought in energy. Ian Galvin, lads, he was incredible when he came in. Shanahan didn't run for him. I'd be straight with you. You have to call it. And I'd say, look, Shanahan will know himself waking up this morning. He'd say, Jesus, I am one lucky boy. And I'd say he'd be saying to himself, right, from here on until Christmas, I'd say anytime he's out with Tony Kelly, he'll be buying Tony Kelly a drink. On the flip side of that, then, the Cork bench, you're saying, right, they're taking off experience and then they're bringing on, they brought on Jack O'Connor. We didn't see Jack O'Connor all year.
Yeah.
Robbie O'Flynn, you have to feel sorry for Robbie O'Flynn.
He's God for him, that's God for him.
Probably feel, and he shouldn't feel good. And he took on that goal, and I admire him in a way for taking it on, because he was saying to himself, right, I'm going to go in, I'm going to be the match winner here. I'm going to be the winner of this All-Ireland. We scored a goal, we're going to win the All-Ireland. Hindsight's a great thing to say, look, you can put the ball over the bar. I even take it back to, it was 0-7. I remember Owen McGrath was going through against Cork, and everyone saying, why didn't he tap it over the bar? And he went for the goal. And he went for the juggler. And that's what the great players do. They go for the juggler. So Robbie O'Flynn shouldn't beat himself up. The one thing I think Cork should have brought in there was Conor Lohan. He was experienced. I think they needed that kind of head around. He's played in the team.
And a shooter.
And a shooter as well. He's been there before. And I think it was crying out for someone like Conor Lohan to come into the fold. But it was just a game that had everything, lads. I mean, the Kelly goal. I mean, you're up there. I have it down on my sheet here. I have OMG. Oh my God. It was just, the stadium was kind of like, did that actually happen? Now, I'd question maybe the other 2 goals that Cork conceded. Most certainly Mark Rogers' goal.
Mark Rogers should not have got in there.
Should not have got in there. You were saying if that's a Kilkenny defence, if that's a Limerick defence, there's no way he's getting in there. The first goal when O'Donnell got in, now I maybe accept O'Donnell. He has
done fair well though to get that. To occupy 3 defenders and still bend around and fire an accurate pass across. Phenomenal, and it was just such a shame O'Donnell goal, but he roared into the match. He didn't touch the ball, and then the 16th minute, in 3 minutes he touched 3, and Clare were back 1-2. Had S1-2 into the Cork lead.
Yeah. I mean, lads, you go back, like what were the matchups we were questioning before that maybe there might be doubts before, maybe Conlon on Barrett and Fitzgibbon on Malone. Conlon was unbelievable, lads. He was unbelievable. David McInerney. I mean, these lads are defiant age. Kelly as well, and the freshness as well. And it was interesting in the aftermath of the match where Kelly came out and he said, sometimes, with Lohan, that he's approachable, that sometimes if you need a break, he'll give you a break. So I feel like there's that manager-player relationship where I'm sure the players can go to Brian Lohan and they can ask him for something, and it's not shot down straight away. No, we're not going to. I feel that there's something there between these Clare players and the Clare manager and the Clare manager.
If you look at that's a good point, Mullers. And if you go back now, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, the week off after the Munster final. Genius. Do you know, it's turning out to be such a master stroke. And even there, I just think you were on about that stuff there, Muller, just with Lohan and then Tony Kelly, right? It was the one thing, and we said it this year. I think there was a genuine fear among hurling people, and I would have said, right, and when I say this, that have we seen, is Tony Kelly now on the wane or whatever, especially with the league he had, right? They're valid questions. Like, you go, right, is it going to be an impact player? We spoke about this, but like, to not rush him back, to not press the panic button, they won the league without going to him. I thought he managed that so well, because other managers probably, when you hit an old pothole here and there, like lose the first round, suddenly going, oh, jeez. And we said it, like Kelly that day almost had a negative effect on Clare. But by God, did he manage that player so well all year. He still didn't rush him back into the team. He waited till the time was right. And I just thought he repaid him in bucketfuls, particularly in the Kilkenny match. And I thought in the Kilkenny match, when I look back on it there last week, Tony Kelly done an awful lot of silent work. And even yesterday, you could see when Clare clearly went man-to-man. They were quite nervous. They were very sluggish on their feet. Like, you look at Adam Hogan, how slow across he was to meet Rob Downey. He just casually strode across. They were sticking to their men. They were a little bit shell-shocked. And then Kelly just seemed to drop back in around. He just played a small bit deeper, made a few passes, put out a bit of space. But just going back to that point there, Clare demolished one of Cork's strongest pieces of artillery, and that was their half-forward line. They took him out. And like Patrick Collins kept going along with the ball, and all it was that it's just such precision, right? Brian Hayes was coming with the runs, but there seemed to be a little bit of a breeze there that he wasn't getting the same length onto them. And Clare were, like, I mean, if you're that Clare half-back line, are they comfortable under high ball? Absolutely. And like taking Conlon, I was just looking at where the puck outs went, like they went after the 5 position, it would be because they had Diarmuid Ryan, Clare were man-to-man, tried to draw Conlon out. And look, did he leave one in Barrett there at one stage? Yeah, but it was just, marking his territory, if you like. I didn't see anything too bad with it. It could have been. But at the same time, that was the line. I just thought Clare put a blocker across there. When they got to grips with the occasion and when they settled down, and I thought Eibhear Quilligan there, he found Cleary or Davy Fitzgerald, the 22nd minute there. Remember, he picked up a ball at one side of the goal and he just sent this arrow straight down the middle to Fitzgerald and he just slopped the ball over the bar. And he just went right clear after settling down a little bit.
Even the way McInerney went about going about his business on Decky Dalton, where Decky Dalton, went down the same avenue as he did against Limerick, where he came out and he was hoping to draw McInerney out. But McInerney was cute. He said, right, I'm not going to go mano on the Cork puck out. He came back kind of 5-10 yards where he said, right, if the ball is hit, I can then press on Dalton. But if the ball goes over, I can then
cheat the run,
I can then leave Dalton and get in on the break, which I thought was very well worked.
But I thought that's a good point, Muller, and I agree with you. But what for me, and again, I documented the Cork puck outs. Like, they had maybe 8 or 9 that went to the 21 or just outside it. After that, Everton went high up the fields. They didn't seem to vary it enough during the match, and I suppose it's that was their rock, that was their strength against Limerick. But I suppose if you're to be really critical, and it's unfair of me to say this perhaps, but like, okay, we weren't playing Limerick, we might need to do something a little bit different, and that was all. Cork just weren't able to kind of change it up a little bit, and still they were getting scores. They were still getting a bit of in there, but like they just probably didn't vary that puck out enough.
It was a tad one-dimensional, actually, wasn't it? Yeah, and when it wasn't working, there was no other tactic. And in fairness to Cleary, lads, Cleary was booked. He got a yellow card in the 23rd minute, and you're thinking, this fella's under pressure here now. He had a brilliant 12 minutes before half-time, and it was very good in the second half as well. But just, lads, we need to talk specifically about Kelly, because the plays he had, the game-defining plays, even in the 31st minute, he had a free back around his own 45 and he hits it short to Mark Rogers. It was just, there was a bit of a bullishness or a confidence. The goal, lads, was absolutely ridiculous. Tim O'Mahony is right behind him, hurl at full length, ready to hook him. O'Donoghue's right in front of him. He's nowhere to go. He feints, puts it over, feints and takes O'Donoghue out again.
You could see with that mixer, O'Mahony almost went to grab him and it was too late. He knew he couldn't, and that's the beauty of this rule. But I still think, and you're looking at it from, we're looking at it from the point of view of that's a spectacular goal, a goal worthy of winning All-Ireland final. Rogers, Downey, brilliant goals. Aidan McCarthy's 4 unbelievable goals. But the reality is, if you go back and look at that, you're saying Sean O'Donoghue has to get some physical contact. And you talk about defending, it's not necessarily getting the ball clean. It's just getting it. He has to stand his ground. Let him barge into him and let it be a clumsy free in that regard, because it's not cynical. But he has to definitely put a blocker in front of him. But sure, that's easy saying now, But I just, on that, Mick, I'm going to jump in before you. Tony Kelly, you talk about, I think some days, and we've seen incredible stuff from this fellow over the years. He's had a couple of injury-ravaged seasons as well. But some days you get up and you go to Croke Park and you're coming into it like today or yesterday for him. And he just probably had it in his mind. It just clicks and he just hit the sweet spot. And you have such clarity of thinking. It's years of experience can give you that, because he was able to see what was going on. Like you said there, and even last night looking at us, there's clearly a strong relationship there with himself and Lohan, that Lohan trusts him and allows them to express themselves. And probably, like you said, Mull, allow him to come to him with things. But on the biggest day of all, to deliver that, and I'd be I may as well be straight, lads. There's no point in going full circle on this. I was wondering, was Tony Kelly, the great Tony Kelly that we all admired, and then he just comes out. And it's not that you doubt him, it's not that. You just wonder where his best day is behind him. And then he goes along, and for 90 minutes, 25 of which I reckon he was fairly cramped. The last
100%. 100%. He did well come back out, Ned, for extra time in the first place. Boys, the point he gets in the 88th minute was absolutely outrageous. No, that was the one to put them one up in normal time. The
2 flicks.
Stop, will you? He flicks the ball off Ethan Toomey. He's no right to even be there.
Yes.
Then he intercepts Melrick. Then the ball is on the ground and he knows Luke Meade is in front of him. So he scoops it it over his head, controls it and puts it over the bar. Boys, he literally was I am dragging ye boys up the Hogan Stand steps today. I don't care what I have to do. And as you say, he was running on fumes in extra time. He was gone at the end of normal time. I was looking at his body. He looked like he was in big trouble. I didn't think he'd come back out. Actually tweeted it.
And to see the time he got clattered down near the Cork management there, I think just at the end of normal time, did he get a right peel off the ground? I thought, you're full sure, oh Jesus, tell me he's not in bother, and just to drag himself off the ground.
And just I didn't know he was after yesterday. I didn't know he was the captain going into yesterday's game. Was he the original captain?
Yeah.
So was he the original captain, or did Lohan by choice just say, right, you're going to be the captain for the day? Or?
No, he was original captain. Yeah, it's just that Cleary has been, or it's just that Kelly.
I was surprised at that.
Yeah, Kelly missed the league, so Cleary lifted the league title. But Kelly was captain once he came back. That confused me a couple of months ago as well. But no, Kelly's been captain the whole way through. Been captain for the last couple of years, I think. But it was so fitting, lads. Talk about cementing your status, delivering those game-defining moments, and then pulling your team up the Hogan Stand steps and then getting a chance to lift Liam McCarthy. It was unbelievable. Just on Kelly, we've kind of talked about the relationship with Lohan, and he came out with that brilliant line on the steps of the Hogan Stand. And I'll go to you on this, Mull, that hurling is a religion in Clare and Brian Lohan is our God. Just talk to me about the job of work that he has done on and off the pitch in the last 5 years. Because, Eddie, it's funny enough, your Laois team should have beaten Clare in Nolan Park in a qualifier. Like, that's how far they have come, like, within 3 or 4 seasons. But Mull, it's been a phenomenal job of work.
Yeah, well, look, I banged the drum, and I think this the appreciation, regardless of if it would have went against Clare yesterday, right? I still think the appreciation would have been there amongst the Clare supporters, because I said it even pre this match and pre last year. Such an incredible job he's done. You have to go back and remember, right? He took over in 2020, and
toxic.
It was toxic. It was a low ebb. I mean, you made a statement last night, Verney. He's effectively done a Michael Digan on it in Clare, where he's turned the whole thing upside down. And now look at the state of where Clare hurling is right now in the landscape of hurling overall. And that, I would say, large parts of that is down to Brian Lohan. And no disrespect to the current chairman, he's doing a great job. You nearly said to me that Lohan is the manager and Lohan is the chairman, and not far off it. And I mean, you go back to even those COVID years. Waterford hammered them down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. I know Kelly got injured. They had the result up in Antrim. Their minors got being by some 30-something points by Cork. Clare hurling was now, I wouldn't say it was on its knees, but and to think that he came in 2020 where everyone was saying, look, the timing is off. He's coming in at the wrong time. This Clare team are past it. An awful lot of the class of 2013 were after moving on, bar 4 or 5 of them. But no, he rebuilt a team, brought that fighting spirit back into Clare again, brought the belief back into Clare again, got the whole county back on board, supporters-wise, and had everyone, rowing in together, both off the field, on the field. He even remarked on it last night, getting the finances back in order, getting people, supporting the team, supporting the county. And he's just, and I was so, now, I would have been delighted for Patrick Horgan yesterday.
Yeah,
but I was so delighted for Brian Lohan yesterday that he got his just rewards and finally got rewarded.
But on that, Muller, I'd say
by getting the big prize.
On that thing, and I reckon first, I'd say year 1 and year 2 was spent building the background. I would say the work that man done behind the scenes, sorting out the kind of mess that was in the county board, like, there's no point in saying it. Like, there was an awful pull in the opposite direction, and there was a change in personnel there in that, and like it seemed to lift off from there. But I would say, like, the first couple of years, he brought back a couple of players that I think a lot of people question, going, "Jesus, has he gone back to real traditional stuff?" But what he done was, I suppose, like anything too, what's one of the first components you have to have as a manager? Patience. You have to have your vision of what you want to do, and you have to build it, and then say, look, there's going to be lots of potholes along the way, so we have to have patience. And he kept coming back. Like, you think of even the setbacks there. Do you remember there one year, wasn't it? He done the interview with Damien Lawler after a match, and he was mad over James Owen's decision. Like, you could see that day what it meant to him, and he went away. He found it hard to bite his tongue. He was so disappointed with the bad luck, and other people might have got down over that. He just kept coming back. And I'd say privately, behind the scenes, lads, like, no matter what happened with the players, and we wondered about this Clare team, to go along at the point when you think of the Monday morning after losing your 3rd Munster final in a row to your neighbours, they must have been low. Like, that's hard to pick yourself up. And for him to settle down and agree or think that a week off for the lads is the best course of action right now. And it probably bought him a little bit of time to go get his head clear and the management to go off and have a bit of time themselves. But you just have to say, like, if anyone has respect for somebody in a county that has done it all, well, then Brian Lohan is one guy that he's the first name that would roll off your tongue if you said, who's Mr. Clare hurling, who's the first 2 or 3 people. Lohan is one of those, and you could just see even on the Sunday game, like Dalo was the captain in 95 and 97. You could see obviously though what it meant to him and the way they hold Brian Lohan, and you even look at how the players spoke about him. Tony Kelly spoke so well about him, and it was just a brilliance. They just looked like a group that this is 5 years of hard work and it's after paying off. And I know, there wouldn't have been any criticism as such had they came up short yesterday. But it's just fitting of the whole investment that he has put in there. And I guarantee you, look, a little bit off side here with this, but if you were to ask Brian Lohan's family, his wife and kids, about the time he put into that, I'd say you get a real perspective of what it meant. That just shows what it means to him. And I'd echo what John said, you just go, wow. And done it all wearing a pair of sneakers, work pants. I love it.
I genuinely think out of their 5, out of the last 4 that they've won in the last 30 odd years, I think it's their greatest one. I honestly do. I think it's their greatest All-Ireland success. Considering, what he had to overcome as well. And like
you said earlier, he was so brave yesterday. He was so brave.
Yeah, he got it.
And on top of that, lads, he brought in 2 men this year. And I thought as a man, Lucas Kirstenstein and Brendan Bugler.
Tommy Corbett was in as well this year, too.
And Tommy Corbett. But I thought bringing in Bugler was a great move, because you had the connection then between 2013 and then Lucas Kirstenstein. You seen the job he done with Galway.
Mull, it's unbelievable.
Bugler had a lot of them young lads in Flannans.
He did, and he had a lot of them with the 20s as well, and he'd obviously know the scene inside out. But you mentioned Lucas, Mull. Like, in all fairness, and I know you shouldn't focus too much maybe on an S&C coach, he's won All-Irelands with 3 different counties, boys. That is it's phenomenal.
Phenomenal, but on top of that, right, that's the last point I forgot to make on Lohan. He had his trusted generals. And were they on the pitch at the end? David McInerney, John Conlon, Tony Kelly, like the guys that I suppose you look at certain fellas like, and John Conlon, lads, at 35 years of age, puts in 90 minutes hurling, and you have gazelles around him at 23 and 24, and they're going down with cramp. What a warrior.
It's
funny. Mac as well, lads.
Yeah.
But lads, what was the one line that we were talking up going into this final that Cork were going to cause wicked bother for Clare? Was the full forward. How good was the Clare full back? Right, Cleary, I'll be honest, Cleary, I was saying, Jesus, he's in trouble. Like, Jesus, they're going to have to make a call, and particularly when he was on the yellow card. And as you said, Verney, he bombed into it just before half time. But Adam Hogan, and particularly
Conor Lean,
lads. I mean, come on now, it was just. He was unbelievable.
Am I right in saying that Lean didn't play a whole lot of the round robin matches early? They bombed him in kind of late enough, and he just took off.
I think it's his 6th or 7th championship game or championship appearance. Lads, he was, like, with due respect, people in Clare,
composed.
Yeah, people in Clare would have known him, but 12 months ago, like, he was not on the hurling landscape. People didn't realise who he was, and he was just walking out with ball, and he was so cute.
But his composure to pick up a ball, and then he's looking, where's my pass? Yeah, and these little dinky passes into that, he was brilliant.
But lads, you go back to it, you can say the league doesn't matter, all right. But who got the most out of the league were Clare, right? Even go back to yesterday, the players that didn't play in the league were probably the elder statesmen. They were refreshed, they were full of energy, they got their timing right. But on the flip side of that, the players that he unearthed in the league, all right, paid a massive rewards yesterday. Conor Lean, his own nephew, Darrell Lohan, Keane Galvin, Ian Galvin, Shane Meehan, Robin Mounsey. He played all them in the league, lads. So I think, Clare really targeted the league. They went after, they unearthed an awful lot of players, and they got as much as they could out of the league, and they reaped their rewards for it yesterday. And on top of that, there was a stat on the Sunday game last night. Across the 5 years, he used 62 players across the 5 years, which again, massive kudos to the man,
Unbelievable. Eddie, it's funny you mentioned Dalo there. I was going out, you go out at half time and full time, and you meet people in the corridors in the press area, and I just kept going like this, just put my hands out like this, hurling like that. Like, it was just, it was the only way to describe like what we saw yesterday. Lads, we have to there was question marks maybe about Johnny Murphy beforehand. I think on the main he refereed the game very well. Now there were obviously a couple of calls, like realistically that Seamus Harnedy one that was blocked by Adam Hogan, I think, that went out for a 65. Like that should have been a 65. Like that's your. Go on. That's your TMO all over. Like you've no. There should be, like, he mightn't have seen it and the umpires mightn't have seen it. But
I don't know how the umpires missed that, lads.
Yeah.
Like if a lad's lining up to pull the trigger and the ball flies in a different direction, sure, like, you know, but I will say though, look, there was a couple of moments there, like, and I know, like you said there, you have to be brave and take those shots on. But for me, that ball it was just such a slick move. If that goes to Alan Connolly, and I know ifs and buts, and these are the killing parts when you do come up short. For me, that has to go to Alan Connolly, because you're kind of, you know, he's in a world of space. They peeled off lovely. And I just think if that happens, you know, at that stage of the match, Cork were kind of in the ascendancy a little bit. But overall, I think, to be fair, I was worried. I was kind of going, God, because we've seen Johnny absolutely dish out cards for sport, like a dealer in Vegas one time. So you're kind of no, but you did, like, was it Wexford and Dublin played a few years ago at Croke Park, and lads, there was 13 cards horsed out,
50
early.
frees, I think. Yeah.
And you're kind of going, okay, but to be fair to him, he has steadied up a little bit, and I thought overall yesterday, I thought he managed it well, because there was a lot going on, and there is so much riding on every decision. But I suppose if you're Cork, you probably feel there was one or two didn't go their way.
Mull, what did you make of the possible penalty/black card call on Robbie O'Flynn? He had gotten away from David McInerney.
I think Johnny, to be fair to me, he got that one 100% right, and I think the umpire called it right. And strangely
it wasn't
enough,
clear.
I think the umpire's name was Jimmy Barry Murphy.
That's right, yeah.
Jimmy Barry Murphy was the umpire. Was the umpire. So there was two Jimmy Barry Murphys up in Croke Park yesterday. So, I'd echo what Eddie said. And look, on All Ireland finally, lads, you're not going to get everything right. And to be fair to Johnny Murphy, I said it last Wednesday or last Tuesday. I think he's made massive strides and massive improvements to really turn into a really good referee. And I think he added to the occasion yesterday. I really do.
Mary Mull, I'll tell you a good one, Mull. Clare had no free in the second half of the game.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was one or two. There was one or two even on Shanahan went through, and it looked like he got kind of tripped.
Yeah.
Near the end, like that could have been a free, and he was probably he left the game flow, and like Clare probably could look back on call saying, Jesus, Johnny, you could have gave us a free. So I think overall, when you balance it out, I think he was fair to both sides.
Yeah, and I think the question that you ask in that regard is, you know, did he steer it one way or another? No, he didn't. Okay.
Now Cork people might beg to differ, and there was a lot of.
You can say there was a call or two, but
yeah,
you get that.
The only problem is that one of the calls was at the very end, and I actually didn't see it in real time. Conor Lean actually has a pull of O'Flynn's jersey, but really, really cleverly, he's not just pulling his jersey. He's pulling his jersey with his left hand, but he's getting his hurl across with his right hand. So it kind of, maybe it was obscured to Johnny or whatever. If he saw it in real time, I didn't think it looked like a free, but when you slow it down, it probably was a free. But
yeah.
I don't know. I think overall, on the balance of it, Clare were probably the better team, but Cork will definitely feel aggrieved over a couple of decisions.
Yeah.
But just from a Cork perspective, Ned, it kind of felt like it was building up as a bit of a perfect storm. They got off to an unbelievable start. Even the 99 team being paraded, you know, an hour beforehand, and all the buzz and all the noise around it. It kind of felt like, oh, it's just going to happen. And they got off to an unbelievable start. Just chat about Rob Downey's goal. Like, I know that it opened like the Red Sea or whatever, but like, what a goal. Catching the ball in his own 65 and just beavering his way the whole way through and finishing like a forward, basically.
Well, if you would have named off, you know, he was such an outsider to score that goal. No one would have said Rob Downey get the first goal in the All-Ireland final. If you did, you had a good day at the office. But like, it was just a great moment, and he just took off. And I just couldn't believe, like, you know, you see even Connolly's movement distracts Adam Hogan from actually, and he just checks his run left and right. Hogan then runs straight at him, and next thing he just glides straight. He just opens the avenue for, and you can see Lean focusing on Horgan, whereas he possibly should have said, you know what? And it's hard to do because you get a millisecond to make that.
But you're happy enough with the centre back having a shot, though, aren't you? Over Patrick Horgan or Alan Connolly.
But that was it. Like, but it was a great finish out of him. Like, you could see it. The slow motion from behind the goal was brilliant because you can see his eyes scanning it. You can go, "Oh, somebody come to me, please," and I pop it off. But what a finish out of him with no catches left. But look, for Cork overall, I thought, like, we're looking at the scores there. Like, they went, what was it, 1-7 to 3-0.
They scored their first 1-8 without a wide.
1-8, 100% accuracy. Yeah. And probably what was needed then, and I know it's easy to talk about these things. Clare were always going to settle down. But what Cork probably needed to do was stay running hard at, like the Cleary one there. Like, geez, if he doesn't stop Conley going in, that was it for the yellow or was it Hayes? Geez, if he lets Hayes off there, then and Cork just weren't able to do enough of that. I think, in fairness to Clare, they went short with a few puck outs out to Davy Mack, and he set up a few little bits and pieces, and he just allowed him to settle on the ball just a little bit. So Malone started breaking up a bit of play. But if Cork had to have they probably just needed to be, I suppose, a little bit more ruthless then and say, do you know what, lads, these boys are in trouble here. And do you know where you smell blood and you go for it? They probably just needed to overrun them with everything and not allow Clare. But look, I suppose that's easier said than done.
Just on that, Ned, you mentioned O'Donnell earlier. Like, Cork were 1-8 to 4 up, and then O'Donnell went inside, I think, set up the goal.
Yeah, he went back inside.
Set up the goal and got consecutive points. Like, that was crucial as well.
Would it be right in saying there was a bit of one? Sorry, Mull.
Just before that, I think Hoggy had an opportunity to stretch the lead out on the sideline, and I think that point would have pushed the gap out to 7 or 8 points. And in the medium aftermath of that, they went down and got the goal.
Yeah.
And even on that, like, when you were straight away looking at who's where, like, you had Duggan went inside for a little while, then Shane O'Donnell started centre forward. Joyce came over on him.
Yeah.
Joyce seemed to be tagging him. So straight away, you have the Cork defences pulled around just a little bit, and I think Coleman wasn't himself yesterday as well. He wasn't able to get on ball and get to that higher platform to set things up. But, and they just, I suppose, I don't know whether, these are the questions. Did Cork think that, I know they didn't think they had won at that stage, but they just possibly needed someone there to just drive it on, or even as soon as maybe Shane O'Donnell creates that goal, is right, stop it up and reassess or change it. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do mid-match.
Mull, I had said this to you in the build-up to the game. Would Cork be able to scale the heights of the Limerick game? And I also kind of went through, let's say, Donegal in 2014, taking down the Dubs but not being able to finish the job. Mayo in 2021, taking down the Dubs but not being able to finish the job. Who else we saying? Kilkenny in 2019, taking down Limerick and not being able to finish the job. Cork couldn't quite get to the level of the two Limerick games, and Clare came up a couple of levels.
Well, that was always going to be the fear that, could they go and replicate those levels, and if they came anywhere near those levels, they were going to win. They were going to win the match. Another thing that didn't happen in the semi-final, they went 10 minutes without a score coming to the end of that first half.
No forward scored from the 14th minute to the 36th minute from play.
Well, there you go. And in fairness, out of the forward line, you have to give massive credit to Harnedy.
Yeah,
Harnedy kept the fight going. He kept plugging away. I think he scored 4 points. Then they moved Darrell Fitzgibbon to centre forward, and you just got to even going into the stadium. You got to kind of, I wouldn't say there was an air of, there was kind of an air or a feeling that this was going to be the day that they were up to kind of bring back Lee McCarthy. And sometimes you can small bit kind of get sucked into that. And I'm not saying for 1 minute they got sucked into that, but I suppose then when you do you mean
Mull, like, even subconsciously thinking that you deserve it, or it's your time, or you know what I mean, and you still have to go and finish the job?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Look, I only. I don't think. Well, look, at the end of the day, Cork supporters, Cork management team, and the Cork players will highlight that. You know, the game finished in a draw.
Yeah.
They came within one score you know, came up one score short. They had the opportunities in extra time to go and win the game. Now, an awful lot of people in the aftermath said, "Jesus, was it a bit unfair?" And some of these players that, some of them were going out with cramp, that they're training all year, that why didn't the game go to a replay?
What do you think of that, Mull? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, look, I think possibly I would agree that possibly a replay probably should have been the best outcome, considering what went into it. Actually, an awful lot of Cork supporters, a good few supporters, were after leaving the stadium, not knowing that it was going that extra time, and they all had to come back in again. But yeah, look, when they reflect on the year as a whole, I think it's been a very, very good year. I think it's been it's a year that Cork have made massive strides. It's a moving year for Cork. Now, look, you can't say next year that, oh Jesus, Cork are going to be back. They'll win it next year. Clare have shown that with all this talent coming through all this under 21 and minor success. That, look, it took them 11 years to get back, but I don't think Cork will be waiting too long to get back. And I think the time is coming. I don't think it's too far away. I think they're going in the right direction, and hopefully the likes of Pat Ryan and the management team will stay on and will guide them for 2025 and into the future.
I suppose just on that, Mick, we're just on about like Cork getting so high, and that was the question. Like, and you're just saying, right, that was for Limerick, and they had a kind of a template that worked twice against Limerick. But I suppose that's where you have to be, and this is, for would-be wannabe coaches in the future, like, and for Pat Ryan probably to churn over and his management team over the winter, saying, should we have had something different for Clare? Right, after 8-9 minutes, you'd have said this is going great. But it's that ability. You think Limerick S against Galway in the semi-final 2 years ago, on the brink of going 9 points down, stop the match, suddenly decide they're not going long, they start going short to Kyle Hayes, and they get the next 4 points. It's that type of thing is probably what Cork possibly needed yesterday, because Clare would have looked at it and said, right, what do these boys do so well that twice they've beaten Limerick? Okay, is this what they're going to do? It was very, very similar. So in that regard, and again, we're not being cruel with that, that's the nature of it, but just one of the things, like, you just look at even some of the moments in the match, like Duggan cutting the sideline over as well. Like, Jesus, like they're moments that just inject energy into him. Just one significant thing, right? Aaron Shanner was like a bull in the china shop when he went on. Like, he had a couple of fouls. He had the foul on the equalising point. But I think maybe sometime before that, Aaron Shanner chases Dara Fitzgibbon.
Got a hook.
50 yards and hooks him. When it's a draw match, the score is 320 to 126. That's a potential match winner. If Cork get their noses in front, could that be it? And you just go, okay, he had the couple of fouls, but that is a huge moment, coming down the death of an All-Ireland final. What a contribution. But I just thought, if you were to look at the big moments, and Cork had some good ones too, but, the big punches were probably the goals. I think particularly the second goal, I think it just really, Cork had to work so hard because Cork didn't get the goals that they needed. And as a result, then they had to work so hard for their scores out the field. And I just think those little injections, like to twice, and even the first half, okay, they equalised the first goal, but the 2 goals, like plus three onto your score straight away, like, and they're real energy top-ups. Like, they absolutely fill up your players.
Ned, what's your opinion on the game not going to a replay at the end of normal time?
I suppose, given the calendar year, I felt the scope there. I think it would have been great, but I also believe there is merit in getting our final, you know, whatever way and we've talked long and hard about the restructure of the championship. I do think it's a good thing to have it finished, you know, to have it done on the day.
Do you think it's right? Do you think it's right though that like cramp could decide an All-Ireland final?
Yeah, I think where the arguments became very relevant was half time of extra time. You could see by it, and we were, you know, I remember my wife turned to me and saying, "Oh Jesus, this is a lousy way because someone is going to lose it because of they're not able to run." And we were, you know, I seen did Kingston get a good point there in the first half? I said, but that's what you do. That's smart play now from Cork. Your fresh legs, and just to me, like they needed Jack O'Connor come out around the middle and torture the boys with cramp. But yeah, going back to the original question, it's horrible when it comes to that. I think that's where you kind of go, oh Jesus, this is horrific. But then you see that in, you know, in other sports, and I know we're not talking about amateurs here either. It's a cruel, cruel way when you lose it. It is cruel. And I'm not sure, I'm not fully sure, Mick, on which side of it I'd sit on. But I think it's horrific when you see it, that lads are starting to cramp hard now, and it could be a lad cramping up and a young, fresh lad on a Honda 50 tears off past you and gets the winning point. It's tough.
We were questioning the €100 for a ticket, and I do still think it's steep, but by God, you got value for money yesterday. The extra time was worth £100 alone, even though I saw Hugh Paddy that used to play with Carlos said €100 is very steep for a seat in Croke Park. I've only been sitting on the edge of it for the first 60 minutes of the game, which is probably about right. Jez Mull, as you were talking there, just even about Cork, you're just kind of thinking, and I know it's a long way away, but like Cork will be stung going into 2025. They're so close, they can taste it. Limerick are going to come back better than ever, I'd imagine, next year. Clare are coming in as champions, and then there'll be a few bolters from elsewhere with new managers coming in. It's a while away, but you'd be nearly looking you'd be looking forward to it already.
And I seen the team of the year, Verney, 15 months I mean, picked on the team of the year in the RT last night. So the creme de la creme for Munster, Verney.
You must.
Jesus, the amount
you hardly have last night's lottery numbers too, Mull, no.
The amount of people I had text me, Jesus, why ain't there Leinster men on it? And yeah, look, probably the likes of Lee Chin could count himself on lucky John Donnelly, David Blanchfield,
Keane Kenny.
Keane Kenny, those four. And I think, look, when it comes around to the All-Star team, I will be thinking maybe 2 out of those 4 will possibly get into the team, you know.
Okay. Lads, there's a million and one moments of the weekend to pick. One is going to take probably TK's goal, but I'll go to you first, Mull. What was your moment of the weekend?
Well, look, all the scores, the points, you know, such an incredible game, but my moment, and Eddie he showed us the picture before we came on, Christy O'Connor in the paper, was the embrace with Brian Lohan and Gerald Loughnane after the match.
It was like father and son, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you know, when you think of, you know, what Gerald went through the last year, and to see him back smiling again was just, and I think that just puts everything into perspective, lads. And that's what hurling does to you. You know, you have your highs and lows in life, and you know, I can only imagine, you know, what Gerald has been through the last year. But to see that embrace, and to see, you know, Tony Considine was there as well, but just to see that embrace between Loughnane and Lohan, and you know, you nearly see this kind of, Lohan is nearly a mirror of Loughnane, and we touched on it there when, you know, when things were at a low ebb in Clare. I remember reading 1 or 2 of Loughnane articles at the time, and you know, he was the one man that really stood behind Lohan and said, "No, this man is the man to drive Clare forward." And you know, to see that embrace in the aftermath of the match, and to see Gerald Loughnane smiling, that was my moment of the weekend, you know.
It's something simple, isn't it? Even like, I thought Charlotte Burns' speech is, I presume, I don't know if he's writing his own speeches or someone's writing them for him, but Jesus Christ, the hair would be standing up on the back of your neck even listening to him. It was brilliant. Ned, what was your moment of the weekend?
Oh, Lord. It's hard to know. Like I said, it's very hard to come away from, like, if you're looking at, I suppose I've experienced, and John, like you experience an All Ireland final where you're stink, or you know, I know I've had a couple of stinkers, and there's doubt sometimes. I just think, you know, and I know, like I said, we've spoke about, but for Tony Kelly, and again, the goal in itself, it's very hard to separate that, but I just thought that point over the shoulder for me, because lesser people were gone. They'd have just been going, all right, just get rid of it. I'm panned out here. And he just saw that it was the only thing available to him. And I just thought it was at a time when Cork were coming at them and Clare needed something. And I just thought that point, and I know the other one before that, like you said, was spectacular as well. I just thought that one over the shoulder was just, to me, that was a real, the other one was absolute class, the point and the goal. But that one over the shoulder was probably the one that, if the rest of his teammates were doubting, or we're in trouble, or we might do this, I'd say that was a real, come on, lads, we can do it. And I just, to me, that was
basically, Eddie, what it was Loughnane at half-time in 95, we're going to do it.
Going to do it. And that was it. And I'd say Tony Kelly he just was bullish yesterday without ever being, I suppose, making it about himself. And I just think sometimes you have players, and we've seen it with different teams down the years, that players just drag them through it. And that was just, to me, that was the one that Clare just weren't going to go away, and they weren't going to just give up the ghost on this. But on that thing, I just think it's actually the warmth at which the Clare people and Loughnane and Lohan and Tony Kelly and all that, the warmth at which they celebrate it together, like you just go, wow, isn't that just, that's what it's all about, the enjoyment. And like, I'm just wondering when we're going on an old road show down to Clare in the next coming week or so, boys.
With a bit of luck. What you say there, Eddie, is totally true, because they know where they were and where they started and where they've come.
And they don't get to All-Irelands too often, lads.
No. They're Kelly, O'Donnell, Duggan, Morey, McInerney are all 2 from 2 in finals now, and Hoggy and Harnedy and a few more are 0 from 3.
But you know what the key is now, Verney, and you know, when they had that serious talent coming through back in when Davy was there, and Davy went to 2015, 2016, and maybe I think Donald Maloney and Jerry O'Connor done a good job, but you can only imagine if Lohan came in then, would they have gotten another one or two All-Irelands back then. But the key for Clare now is they have an unbelievable amount of talent coming through now over the next couple of years, and it's how they're going to manage that talent. And now the key thing for Clare is now, and I think for the Clare chairman, I think the biggest job is nearly for him to say, go to Lohan and say, look, Lohan, Brian, can you give us another 3 years, 4 years, and bring this next array of talent through? And I think Lohan could do a Kieran McGeeney on it. I really do. And if they can manage the good talent coming through again, there's no reason why they can't push on and win another All-Ireland.
And like, again, that I completely agree with you, Mull. They should be absolutely saying to him, a minimum, we want you here for the next 2 years. And I do think that if you're doing your business right in some regards, and I'm not saying Lohan won't stay going for 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, but should you not be kind of grooming your next man? Like, is Brian O'Connell, graduate him up to the 20s and say to him very clearly, like, have them aligned, have them working together. And I'm sure that's going on.
I believe it is, Eddie, now, to be fair.
And that's good business. That's how you, and you say to yourself, well, whatever Limerick done up to this point has been excellent. Clare are coming behind them nicely. Cork, not too bad at how they're managing their underage. That is how it should be, that you should be looking at it and saying, right, that when Brian O'Connell potentially, and it's a fair point to make, in 5 years' time, is Brian O'Connell possibly going to be taking on that bunch of players with a lot of the minors that he brought through? No different than Woody with Tip. Do you know, that type of scenario that you should be almost, you look at Liam Sheedy, like he brought through Tip minors, and then those guys that were on his team, that were the backbone of that minor team for Liam Sheedy in 06, 07-ish, they were then his leaders going into his adult team.
Mull, who's your hurler of the year and why?
Shane O'Donnell.
Why?
No, why? Because he's just Mr. Consistent. You know what you're going to get from him every day. go-to guy for Clare when they were in bother yesterday. Dug him out of a hole. You know,
I thought he was after popping his shoulder at one stage too, boys. He looked in big bother.
He gave it a fair dart,
But you know, when they were under pressure this year, he came up, you know, and said, a bit like Kelly yesterday, roll up the sleeves and drag them over
the old guard.
And, you know, he's a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal player. And you know what? He have a nice personality about him, a lovely, lovely personality about him too. And, you know, I'd say comes from, you know, he's listening to his parents as well. Parents are lovely people, and just has a lovely, lovely manner about him, a lovely way about him. And he's taken that onto the field. So for me, yeah, Shane O'Donnell is my hurler of the year.
I was half wondering if he was going to call time in his career at the end of this year, because he talked about he didn't know which year would be his last or whatever, and he could be hurler of the year now, and he's after finishing with a second All-Ireland, but it doesn't look like that's the case. Him and John Collins seem to both commit to 2025 last night. I don't think they'll be able to leave anyway, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Eddie, who's your hurler of the year?
I'm just trying to, he's there, yeah. I'm just trying to think, is there an argument for anyone else that's better than him? And I'm just looking through the Clare team sheet here, or looking through the Cork team sheet. It's probably because I suppose what you're looking for is, and we've seen that having been knocked out in the semi-final, but I think when Clare were in bother yesterday, he came up with 2 points himself and the goal in a 3-4 minute, and that's what you want your hurler of the year to do. And I also then on top of that too, like he occupies opposition, and what he done yesterday, like. And he understands that. And I think that's the beauty of a player like him, understands that if he can open doors elsewhere for his teammates, that's equally as effective as him getting the ball. Like, he's so game for tackles. He's not afraid to put the body on the line. And he's a lovely fella. I'd say he's not afraid though either. I'd say he cut your throat for you too if needs be. You know, I think he has that little. I saw him this year. The semi-final against Kilkenny, I was watching it back the next day, and when he got fouled the time that he was gone and the ref called him back on Hughie Lawler, you can see him piercing at the ref as much to say, why did you know, you can see there's a bit of a cut in him as well. Like, he's without ever being dirty, he's confrontational. He'll go in there and he'll put his body on the line, and that's what I'd like about him. But going back to the question, I was trying to see, is there an argument for anyone else that could go in there with him? And probably not. I think he'd done enough yesterday to see it home.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. Ruthless to be the word I used to describe him. And he's so clever to realise that he's getting a lot of special attention now, that others can prosper on the back of that, and space can be created for others on the back of that. But that's a wrap, men. Thanks a million for a brilliant year. Just we talked a fair amount of hurling from start to finish. I don't know what we're going to do for the next couple of months, but no doubt we'll get something rocking and rolling. My thanks once again to Eddie Brennan and John Mullane for joining me. That's the last show of the season. Huge thanks to all our viewers and all our listeners. Some great feedback from people all around the country and all around the world, in fact. So don't forget to rate, review and follow the show on Apple, Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. Thanks a million for listening, and from the two boys as well, and goodbye.